Hello to everybody, in this tutorial we are going to explore different approaches and techniques to create a transparency distortion. We'll see an easy system for when you're working on a quick project, and an improved version where we get a more complex and more dynamic distortion. We're also going to see how to use these techniques not only on static elements but also on dynamic elements. In addition, we're going to create some variation using animated asset from today's video sponsor, Celwizard.com. Celwizard is a library with hundreds of frame-by-frame, modular and editable animated elements that you can quickly import and use into your motion graphics project. Okay, first we need to create an adjustment layer. Select the mask tool and make a circle at the center of the comp. Then go to Effect and apply the Fast Box Blur. And I'm going to set it around 30. Nothing new here, honestly, we have already seen this a lot of time, but maybe we can twist it a little bit. We can create a little highlight border on our circle, so new layer, white solid. And let's just copy the adjustment layer mask on it, then copy the mask shape again, decrease the size a little bit, and set it on subtract. Set the mask feather on a low number, like 10 or even less, and parent the adjustment layer to the white highlight layer. This way it will be the controller of our glass circle. On the blurred layer we can create a second mask and set it on subtract. Increase the feather and now we have the blur only on the external part of the glass, while the center will be clear and visible. Now we can start working on the distortion, but our adjustment layer has a hole in its center. So we need to create a new one by clicking on Ctrl D to duplicate the layer and remove the mask. Since we are working with a circular shape, we can try to use the bulge effect. So apply to the second adjustment layer and set the dimension as our circle. But as you can see, even if the adjustment layer is parented to our controller, when we move it, the bulge effect do not follow our circle. To solve this, just parent the bulge center to the controller position and we're good. A first alternative to this system is having the distortion on a completely different layer. To do so, just duplicate your circle and cancel the second mask, so that we have the same shape to use as a matte. Just duplicate the layer that's going to be distorted. I'm turning off the first one to be more clear. Just change something. In this case, I'll invert the fill and stroke of the text to have only the outline, but you can apply some distortion effect or whatever you want. Once you have your distortion or your different visual style, set the second text to be visible only through the matte, and set the original text with an inverted matte to be visible only on the outside. To emphasize the difference, I'm also creating a new solid circle with a slightly different background color. And I also want to increase the size of the text a little bit. Now we are working with dynamic elements. I have this sort of fluid animation that I've created by combining just some stroke animation. We are not going to see in details how to create this liquid stroke animation, but if you are interested, please let me know in the comments. Anyway, we are going to use a very similar technique as before, but with some twist. First, we need to duplicate the layer that's going to be distorted, in this case the text, and also the distorting layer, so the liquid, that will be used again as a matte. Let's set the liquid as a matte for the text, and now I want to apply on the liquid matte the effect Simple Choke, and set it around 50. Apply also a blur effect, so that our text will be visible only partially inside the liquid. Then we can apply to the text a turbulent displace effect and animate the evolution. In my case, I'm going to loop it, but that is not always necessary. I also want to play with the turbulent displace values a little bit to find a distortion that works well with my liquid shape. Now we can style our liquid base, so I want to change the color a little bit. Add some inner glow so that it looks like the liquid is reflecting the text color. And I also want to add some highlights with another layer style. I want to try it again really quick using a different element, so I'm importing this liquid shape from Celwizard library. I need to turn off the stroke and to change the color, and then I can apply the process we've seen before. So, duplicate your layers and set one as a matte. Then apply your distortion effect on the other layer. Apply on the matte a choke effect and a blur effect. Style it a little bit and we got it. To start, let's create our shape, keeping in mind to set as a color a 50% gray. And repeat the same process we've seen before to create the shape highlights. We've seen it. Then go to the layer style and apply bevel and emboss, as we need to create these black and white borders on our shape. Let's increase the size a little bit and also the intensity. We are going to use the displacement map effect, which is not affected by transformation properties like scale or position, so we need to pre-compose this shape and don't forget to set it on move attributes in the new composition. We need to parent our gray shape to our controller, so we need to move here the main comp for the moment, and then parent the gray circle position to the position of our controller layer. Now we can apply the displacement map effect on our text layer or whatever is your subject. Set as displacement map our gray solid. Then we can set vertical and horizontal displacement on luminance and increase the values. As you can see, this effect is distorting the pixel, keeping the gray as a neutral parameter, while increasing the distortion where the circle gets closer to white and black. Okay, now I've also added a little bit of shadow out of the circle and a lighter fill color for the text. And that's it, we get a definitely more complex and realistic transparency distortion effect now. Okay, we can step it up a little bit again using a dynamic transparent element. We can use the liquid lines from before and repeat a similar process by combining everything we've seen till now. First thing, I need to pre-compose all these lines to have them as a single element. Then I can apply again my bevel and emboss layer style. I almost forgot to set the base color as a middle gray, sorry about that. And I also want to edit a little bit the white and black gradient on my liquid, so I'm increasing the size, and also the softness and the angle. So we can import our liquid displacement map, and as before I'm going to duplicate our text layer. I'm also changing its color so that the process is more clear. So let's apply a displacement map on the text and set it as we've seen before. And you can already see how the text now gets a really nice distortion that follows the liquid direction. Let's also use the matte technique, so duplicate the liquid and set it as a matte, and apply the simple choke effect. Let's also change the color of the liquid base so that we can see what's happening. And apply to the liquid matte also the blur effect. Turn the matte layer off and we see how our distorted text is now visible only at the center. I'm also applying to my text a simple drop shadow to create a sort of very small and light gradient effect so that it looks more bright. Now I can style my base liquid, so layer style and inner glow, layer style and bevel and emboss, layer style and drop shadow. I want to do a last quick exploration using Celwizard library, and I'm going to use the basic cube from the isometric packet. I want to turn off the stroke and recolor the cube with the scale of gray. Then, if I go inside the cube comp and use the Luma Matte, I can separate the layers. Now I can apply the bevel and emboss layer style to create these black and white corner areas on every face of the cube. Once we get our distorting shape, I want to duplicate it and recolor it. Now I can apply the displacement map on the subject with the gray cube as a source. Again, apply the choke effect to create that corner empty space, and I want to emphasize the distortion here, so I'm also adding a slant effect. I'm increasing the scale and also animating the position. In the end, I also added some gradients to the cube faces, and I also added and animated the stroke to give some corner light. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know in the comments if there is some other techniques you would like to see, and please like the video and subscribe to the channel.